This is the July segment of the Blue Seat. We've got some great, exciting news. Not only do we have a fantastic guest for you this month, but we also have a presenting sponsor, which we're so excited to partner with Florida Blue. And joining us just to do a wonderful welcome is Ashley Russo. She's the Center Director for the Tallahassee Florida Blue Center. So Ashley, welcome. Thank you so much for your support of INIE and the sector. Tell us a little bit more about Florida Blue.
Yeah, so I would love to. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your Blue Seat, and we are happy to be partnering with you and the work that you do with so many of our local leaders here in Tallahassee area. I'm happy to represent Florida Blue. We have our flagship centers all throughout the state of Florida. We're happy to be here in the capital city and serving our community here in our local area. We love to partner with our local community to help us achieve our mission, which is to help people and our community achieve better health. So we do so by providing health insurance products, as you know us from the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida, but we also are now a health solutions company who also have many other things to offer our members and our community to help us all achieve better health. So we'd love for you to visit our center on Appalachia Parkway, and we have all of our agents there to serve our community over the phone during this time. But we are happy to be a part of this product and this program, and we are thankful for our community leaders, like we'll hear from shortly, and we appreciate anything that we can do to continue to achieve that mission of helping our communities achieve better health.
Well, Ashley, thank you. We're equally as excited to partner with you and your team as well, and look forward to sharing a lot of the great tips and information that Florida Blue has to offer to all of our nonprofits. So again, Ashley, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to talking with you further in the future.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye. So now we'll turn it over to our subject matter, which happens to be collaboration and crisis management. And who better to have as a guest to talk about crisis management than our own local leader and hero, Randy Nicklaus. Just a little bit about Randy, just in case you did not know, is Randy is the president of 211 Big Bend, but he's been the executive director and president for over 35 years, which is wonderful and amazing in itself. So Randy, congratulations on all of those years. When does the 40th year come in?
Let's just stick with the 35 for now. Actually, in October, it will be 35 years on the head. So I'm in my 35th year right now.
Oh my God, that's exciting. So much knowledge and wisdom that comes with those 35 years. So just again, a little bit more about you. You manage a 1 million plus operating budget. You have over 20 full-time employees. Just in case some of you did not know, Randy is a Seminole, okay? So FSU grad with a master's in counseling and human systems. And then he also is a graduate of University of Wisconsin. So go Badgers, Randy.
Well, actually, I was at Eau Claire, so I'm not a Badger officially, but I do support the Badgers. Yeah,
okay.
we were Blue Goals in Eau Claire.
Well, thank you for that. You know, typically everyone knows 911 and then second to that 211 for emergency or crisis management. So in light of the pandemic, how has crisis management changed for you? You've always been there, whether it's fires or hurricanes, but in terms of the pandemic, how is this different?
Well, our calls increased in March by about 65%, and they stayed at that level through May and into June. We are still seeing an increased level of call. A lot of the callers are really looking for basic needs, food, financial assistance. We are talking a little bit about the various COVID issues that they're dealing with, whether it's testing or how to learn more about what they should do to protect themselves. And then we're getting into some of the mental health issues, the anxiety people are having, especially if they've lost employment, being cooped up in their houses, things like that they're dealing with. So it's a different set. It's a similar set of what we always deal with, but it's a little bit more focused on those areas.
Well, thank you. So formally, what is the mission of 211 Big Ben?
Well, the mission is to help people in either in crisis and or just needing help finding resources in our community. We are a clearinghouse of information on human services. We have a database that we keep up to date of all those resources. There's over 1,000 different programs that we manage and update and help people find when they need it. But we're also here to prevent suicide. We are a crisis suicide prevention hotline, as well as all the other things that we do to support people that call.
Well, again,
I'll just tell you too, I'm sorry, in addition, we have some other programs. That's our primary mission, but we have other programs like our Help Me Grow for assessing developmental progress of children. We also have a veteran support line, and we have some statewide hotlines we operate with the state of Florida Department of Health. So we do a lot of different things in addition to those 211 services.
great. And I would imagine that if anyone's interested in learning more about those services, the additional ones that you mentioned, they can just call 211 Big Ben and find out more about that. Okay, fantastic. Well, what are some of the leadership lessons that you have learned being 35 years into the nonprofit sector in this world? What would you consider as some of those meaty leadership lessons that you've learned over the years?
Well, I think, listening to our community needs, working with our partners, trying to be a key partner in various collaborations. I know we're talking about collaborations, and I think that's probably one of the things that we do best at 211. We are out in the community with a lot of groups, and just learning how to work cooperatively with everybody that's providing services.
Well, and it's a lot of them. How many partners would you say that you work with right now to provide those services?
Well, I mean, like I said, we have over 1,000 programs, and that represents probably 400 agencies that we keep in touch with on an active basis with different collaborations. Oh, there are scores. There are probably 50, 60 organizations that we work with on a fairly regular basis, with the basic needs to the homeless services to mental health. We're on the Mental Health Council, and we're helping work on a database there to increase access to mental health services through therapy. So we're really, it's numerous and uncounted numbers of partners.
Well, that leads me to another question. Again, now 211 Big Ben has been around for how long? I know you've been there 35 years. So how long has the organization been around?
The organization started in 1970 at Florida State University. It was a program in their counseling center. It was a 24-hour crisis line, mainly for students. And then it grew to become a community organization. And in 1976, it became incorporated as a nonprofit, and it moved into the community. And at that time, we were called Telephone Counseling and Referral Service. And then we changed our name in 2003 to 211 Big Ben when we started answering calls through our 3-digit 211 number, which became available through an FCC designation in the year 2000. So we've been here 50 years. This is our 50th anniversary year.
That is amazing. Congratulations. And what a year to celebrate 50 years, Randy. What a year to do what you do best. It's amazing how that worked out. I'm interested, so 50 years, what are the things that you would say that 211 Big Ben has done to sustain itself for all these years?
Well, we have maintained a very strong volunteer training program. I would say that's our core strength. We have volunteers going through training 3 times a year. There's probably 25 to 30 plus volunteers in a training class. So each year we probably clear 65 or so counselors to work on our hotline as volunteers. And then when they have completed their volunteer commitments, they are already trained and often hired as our full-time and part-time counseling staff. And so we have a sustaining training program and pool of candidates that help us continue. So when you're a 24-hour organization, it's very hard to fund all the shifts we have to cover, all the hotline shifts we have to cover with paid employees, just because the resources aren't always there. So the volunteer component is critical for us. And we have very well-trained counselors. Over the years, we've probably trained over 3,000 plus counselors, and they have gone on to become leaders in their professions throughout the country. So we're very proud of that, and I would say that's the key thing. The other thing that's important is, again, through the partnerships, we have a lot of funding partnerships with our local funders, statewide funders, and we're involved with a statewide organization called FLAIRS, the Florida Alliance of Information and Referral Services, and that's a state chapter of the national organization, AIRS, and then also we work with United Way, both locally and worldwide, with the 211 services. So we have a lot of partners locally, statewide, and nationally, and some of those are funding partners, or we are able to garner some service contracts, like through our statewide network of 211s. We have a Florida 211 network. There are 13 211s. And we are now working with the state of Florida in several different areas to provide services statewide through our 211 system. So that's another thing that has helped us develop and improve our capacity to, and we learn from each other too. I mean, that's another strength of that system. And I would say locally we have strong supporters. We have people that have donated to our organization, have supported our organization, have promoted our organization. We have a strong board of directors and an excellent staff, well-trained staff. So all those components add together to make I think a really good organization.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I do know some of our grassroots, newer nonprofits tend to just lean on money as being the main component of sustainability, and it's so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep hearing you repeatedly say partnerships across the board, not just with funding, but also volunteers and leadership is a critical part of that as well. Right. I wanted to ask you about about establishing those relationships where you're building partnerships, and not just the funding partners, but the ones who are, I guess, on the front end of being able to provide the services to our community when they call 211. How are you able to build those relationships?
Well, I think, it starts with getting out in the community, going to meetings, getting to know people, getting them to know you, building trust in those relationships. For instance, with COAD, the community organizations active in disaster, I think a critical turning point there was when we started using the 211 number. It became a national part of the 211 system that we helped in hurricane response and other disaster response. And so locally, it took us many years to build the trust and develop the sense that we could be a key partner in a disaster like a hurricane. And Emergency Operations Center at Leon County developed that trust in us and now considers us one of their key partners. So it took time to build that, to build our knowledge, to build our capacity, and to build that relationship. So that's just one example. But I think when you demonstrate you have good training, you have good programs, you have good services, and you're willing to work with others, people are open then to bringing you into their arenas and their partnerships. And we don't say we do everything. We have our niche. We have things that we are very good at, and then we are in a more general way, we're helping people connect with the specialized services in our community that we don't necessarily provide. We don't provide ongoing counseling, for example. We provide one-time supportive counseling. We do some follow-ups, but if people are seeking an ongoing counseling relationship, we can offer referrals to therapists and help them find that type of relationship that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And my last question for you on this, Randy, is what advice would you have for our nonprofit leaders in terms of planning for hurricanes, pandemics, some of these disasters that pop up? Some of our nonprofits are understanding that they're just not equipped and prepared for this. And personally, I think some of it has to be, you have to be willing and able to adapt to change, and in this environment, adapt quickly. But what's some of the advice that you would recommend to our nonprofit leaders for crisis management, planning for crisis management?
Well, I think to have some basic plans, develop that not in the middle of the crisis necessarily, but before things might happen. Like hurricane season, you should be probably planning, 6 to 12 months out to, like, what do I do next year with preparing my agency for that. Looking at the resources that are out there, there are a lot of good resources that can kind of guide you in your planning. You can talk to other organizations about what they're doing. You can talk to vendors about their suggestions based on what they're helping you with. It's just, I think, taking small steps so it's not overwhelming, but keep moving forward and don't ignore the need to do that planning. It's often challenging when you don't have a lot of resources, you don't have a lot of staff time, but you can do some things. You don't have to do everything. You can start small and make a little progress, and then, get to the point where you need to be over a period of time. So that would be what I suggest.
Great advice. Thank you, Randy.
Sure.
So what does the future for 211 Big Bend look like?
Well, we're excited. We are purchasing a new telephone system, which will allow us to answer calls remotely if the need arises again through a pandemic or a hurricane or any other thing. We have a backup emergency generator, so we can pretty much stay here. We're building our capacity so we don't have to leave our facility during certain events. We have developed a lot of crisis programs, I would say. We're working with the Mental Health Council on some areas. We're focusing more on community awareness of our service. We're doing some marketing campaigns right now to help people know about 211, especially in high need areas of our community. And so some of our partners are helping us fund that campaign. And so we're looking at expanding awareness, continuing our services, but also increasing maybe some of our follow-up and care coordination with callers, so that we're helping to ensure that they're accessing services in the community after they call us, making sure they get connected. We're helping them find a different connection if the first one doesn't work out. So we're expanding in those areas, and as I said, working with state agencies throughout the state with our 211 network. I think there's a lot of potential for growth there. So part of it is capacity building, and we're working on a lot of that right now.
Sure. Have you found it difficult to work with state agencies, or is that relatively easy?
Well, I think the longer you work with them, and we've had statewide contracts since I've been here, and we've had more recently, but when you learn how to work with the state agencies and the contracts or purchase orders or whatever they're managing, you develop systems so that you know how to do that, and you increase not only your capacity, you increase your knowledge of how to follow protocols, state spending protocols or contract protocols. And I find a lot of people with our state projects, a lot of our contract managers are very easy to work with. They want us to succeed. They want to help us. And as long as you're fulfilling what you need to fulfill, they're very happy, and the partnership grows and develops.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, Randy, lots of kudos to you. I know it's a lot of hard work. Thank you so much for being such a great leader for us to look to in times of crisis like this. But just in general, the wisdom that you bring to the sector is so valuable. And I definitely want to thank you for being one of the founders of INIE and making a voice in the community for the need for INIE to exist. Wish you all the best. Please, your wonderful wife said hello. and greetings from INIE. And without further ado, thank you so much for all of you who are watching and our viewers, and a special kudos out to Florida Blue for being our presenting sponsor for the Blue Sea. So we will see you next month in August. We have another very special guest in the Blue Sea. But Randy, again, thank you so much for your time. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you for what you're doing with these shows and what you do as the director of INIE. Appreciate that.